Given that we're in this electorate here this morning, why is your local member standing about 5 metres away instead of in front of the microphones with you this morning?
Because we're doing an education announcement, and you should come with us on our street walk shortly, and we'll be with Fiona meeting many of your fellow residents of this electorate.
Has she been sidelined this morning, given what happened at the last press conference?
Look, can I just say to you, this is the way we're making this announcement here with myself and the Minister, and because we're dealing with questions, regrettably, none of you have shown any interest at all in the announcement we've made here. None of you have shown any interest at all in this school, the education, so... No, none of you have asked any questions about it, so I'd be delighted. What about this? Why don't we have 2 questions on P-Tech and technology in schools? Can you think of one? Anyone have one? Yes.
$234 million has been cut from the electorate of Lindsay.
No, I'm not. That is the commitment of spending here, and the commitment to this electorate is very substantial, particularly in terms of infrastructure.
And Dan, I'm guessing that your question is based on the Labor Party scare campaign about school funding. And of course, what we have in this election is a reality which Labor refuses to accept, that whoever wins this election, funding for Australian schools will go up. Now, under us, we have budgeted growth, as I said in my comments, for funding from $16 billion this year to more than $20 billion by 2020. That's real growth, but it's affordable growth. It's fully funded growth from the Coalition. It's ahead of inflation, it's ahead of enrolment, so it will ensure that schools can keep doing more. But Labor should stop the scare campaign and the fear-mongering of running around Australia, making false claims like that, and ought to be honest enough to say that whoever wins, funding for Australian schools goes up. The only difference is we're confident we can pay for our funding. We know that a growing economy will ensure we can keep delivering that in the future, that programs like P-Tech will give job opportunities for students in the future, whereas frankly, how on earth can anybody believe that a Labor Party without an economic plan will be able to deliver on the largesse they're promising in 10 years' time, as they say?
Christian, P-Tech?
Yes.
How much money have you extracted from PwC as part of this partnership? And do you think some of that funding can make up the education funding shortfall that your government's promising?
Well, for a start, I just refer you to what Simon said about the question about shortfall. We're spending more money on school education every year. The federal government's spending on school education on a per-student basis has been growing very rapidly and indeed vastly outstripping the growth in spending per student by state governments. This is in public schools, state schools I'm talking about, by state governments and territory governments. But Simon, do you want to say some more about P-Tech?
Well, P-Tech's real aim is to establish a functional partnership and relationship between schools and workplaces and businesses in the local community. PwC is committed to expanding their footprint of employment in Western Sydney. They've got a strong and passionate commitment here, and they want to, of course, work with local schools, in particular this school, to create opportunities for students to see the range of career opportunities that are available to them. We're not asking businesses to directly tip money into schools. We're asking businesses to give time and effort and the resources of their human capital in those businesses to working with schools and school students. That's what the nature of this program is. And our expectation is that out of the pilots we're establishing, we should be able to have a model that can be replicated right across the country in many different schools and settings where businesses and schools can forge these relationships.
Unfortunately, we've got to leave that there for the moment. The Education Minister, Simon Birmingham, along with the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, speaking in Western Sydney. Stick with us on ABC News 24. Your next bulletin is coming up now.